are not evil. The masses are stupid. Because you know that you're the one that will suffer from this thing happening, and you went ahead and voted for that person.
No, they don't know that. I'm telling you.
Because the truth is, I told my brother, I said billionaires are like 1%. They don't have the power that the masses have.
Yeah, they don't know that. Being educated,
that part.
Superpower.
That
I don't
part.
care whether you went to school for it, whether you stayed at home and you just learned by reading books, whatever. But being educated, I'm sorry. Being educated is a superpower and your secret weapon.
Welcome to another episode of the Two Naija Girls podcast. We are like halfway through the episode already.
At this point.
This is our first time seeing y'all this year, 2025. Yes. I am one Naija girl, Cynthia, and we have our other Naija girl,
Jubilee.
Jubilee Gamaniel. And we are living in crazy times. Again. Unprecedented times again. I saw somewhere on Twitter, someone was like, give me precedented times. Like, I'm tired of living unprecedented times. Again, we are living in unprecedented times again. And, I'm just disclaimer. If you are a supporter of this current administration, you may not enjoy this episode. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you aren't, you will enjoy this episode. I will go for the episode. Oh, you might learn something. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's your choice, right? If you like, watch it and give us a dislike, whatever. But it might not be an enjoyable experience for you. Or as Jubilee said, you might learn something. But what I want to talk about in this episode actually is not as much the administration itself, but ways for us to protect our peace. Absolutely. As everything unfolds. As it's already unfolding. It's already started to unfold from day one. The first time he was president, President for number 45 was what triggered insomnia that drove me into therapy. Oh. It was that year, 2020. Yep. It was that year. February of that year was when I went into therapy. And I remember he had just signed something that impacted Nigeria at the time. I think it was a change of rules for the visas or something. And then I think something about like the immigration rule for like people who had spouses. And it was just something. And I just wasn't able to sleep because we have family in Nigeria. Yes. So that's something that directly impacted us and our families and our abilities to potentially be with our families. Yeah. And so it impacted me to the point where I wasn't sleeping anymore. I still remember that was the year I went into therapy. But again, like, that's what triggered it, but I needed therapy. So I ended up staying in therapy for 3 years, right? But that was the trigger. It was that year, 2020. That was the trigger. That's what led me into therapy. However, so what I want to talk about, again, after years of therapy, after years of self-development and growth, what we want to discuss today is just ways for us to protect our peace. Yes. Right? Absolutely. Ways for us to protect our peace. So, we'll just get right into it. Jubilee, just, what are you doing right now? What are some things you're doing right now to like keep calm, protect your peace as everything unfolds as it's already unfolding?
I'm not going to lie to you. Every day I sit down and I say to myself, I'm like, I did not vote for this person. So everybody that's crying, be crying because I was not there. I did not vote. I not to vote.
I'm not among.
I'm not among you people. Like my true spirit is remove yourself from this situation. It has nothing to do with you.
Right.
That's one. But truly though, it's like, honestly, so yesterday, it's so crazy because I was literally talking to Francois and I was telling him, and I'm like, I don't want to scroll on TikTok. And then he's like, why? And I said, I need somebody to be cleaning their house. I need somebody to be like putting their food in their pantry. Those are things I want to watch on social media now. Yeah. Because I feel like the moment I open social media, all I hear is like, breaking news. Did you know? I'm like, I don't want to know.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to even know. Like, I just don't even want to know because there's so much information coming out. And I just truly want to, like, watch people, like, clean their house. Those are the kind of things that give me joy. Clean their house. You know, make meal prep.
Make food. Yeah, meal prep. I love recipe videos. Those things give me joy.
Like, meal prep. Show me funny things that are happening in your house. Like, all those funny home videos that people make. Those comedy, the skits. These are the things that I need to. So right now, to be honest with you, like one of the things that I do, I live on Naija TikTok. Okay. I live there. I live there rent free.
Yeah.
I love it because I'm just seeing things that just make me happy and just make me laugh. That's for sure. Because I just do not want to bombard myself with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And then, but not just that also, well, you already know I'm in therapy. Like, this is something that I preach about. Like, it's a thing. So it's like, if I feel overstimulated, and I try to stay away from things that make me feel overstimulated, right? So it's like watching the news. Well, first of all, I stopped watching the news a long time ago. But like literally like getting information online, like the things that I signed up for, like the news pages or certain podcasts that I signed up for, some of them I've just kind of slowed down on them. I'm like, I don't need to read all the information.
You don't need to know all that.
So I'm trying to reduce that for sure, where it's like, you know, it's just less interaction with like, and just focus on myself. Because I think the one thing that just overstimulates me for sure is all the information coming at me. And unfortunately, I'm an empath, right? So it's like when I see these videos, I start to feel bad. I'm like digging. I'm like, oh my God, how can I help? Then I'm like, I helped already. I told you who to vote for. And now you're making videos saying we are disappointed. Who are we?
Who are the we? I'm the same way in terms of, you know, I'm very empathetic. I'll give you an example. You know, when this whole Palestine thing started, I have a few friends, of course, who are from the Middle East and all that. And every single video I came across of a kid, and I may even break out, I may even cry talking about this, a child or a woman or whoever suffering, I just burst out into tears.
Yeah.
I just start crying. Like, and then I had to tell myself, like, who's your tears helping? It's not helping anyone. So what I did for myself was I decided to shut out the news, stay aware of what's happening, but shut out the news of it, shut out those triggering images of what's going on.
The images especially.
And just do what I can. And what I could do at the time was donate funds, relief funds, like all those relief funds to Gaza and things like that. And that's what I could do, because my tears that wasn't helping anybody, you know? So similarly, that's what I'm doing right now. I told my brother, like, right now, I am muting that word on all my social media channels.
I should do that.
His name, and everybody associated with him, including the one from South Africa, Elon, the one who changed Twitter to whatever, X. I muted all their names on social media so that news of them don't come to me anymore. Very practical tip. And I told myself, like, if there's anything I need to know, I'm sure the information will reach me somehow.
Yeah,
I'm sure the information will reach me somehow, but I'm not going to go out looking for the information. And so the other thing I want to ask you, Jubilee, because a lot of people watching this right now may see this as, you have the group of people who are like, oh, silence is consent, this and that. Honestly, like, I think I've reached a stage in my life where I've come to the conclusion that activism is not my calling. And I say this very, very, like, honestly and very blatantly. Activism is not my calling. I'm way too empathetic. I'm way too, like, the thing with how empathetic I am is I get so emotional that I lose logic. And it doesn't only happen. I get so emotional that I start to lose logic. And that is not something that only happens, like, where it comes to social issues. It happens with my relationships with people. Like, when I get upset, I can't speak. I get so emotional that I just lose logic. Something happened the other day with me and my sister and my niece. And, my niece called me back and she wanted to talk to me. And what did I tell her? I was like, just give me some time to calm down. And then we'll get back on the call. Because when I'm emotional, I can't function. That's how empathetic I am. And so for someone who's that empathetic, exposing myself to triggering things, it just doesn't help anyone in my picture. So I finally had to come to the conclusion that activism is not my calling. For the people who activism is their calling, I support you 150%. I do all that I can do to spread the word about important issues, whether that's retweeting on Twitter, whether that's anything I can do, or when, like, the ceasefire deal was reached in Gaza, celebrating the ceasefire deal after months and months of donations to Gaza. I do what I can do. So I guess what I'm trying to say is know yourself. Right?
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't benefit anyone when your mental is messed up.
First of all, I wanted to just say there's power in also, and I think that's something that you should recognize and give yourself kudos for, because not a lot of people have that of self-awareness. By being just being self-aware that, okay, you know what, like, look, when I'm upset, I get too emotional about something, or when I'm when I'm too involved in something, I get too emotional and I need to step back for a second. I'm gonna need a minute. Because one of the reasons why people say I see red, blah blah, and then they react where it's like it breaks into a fight or an altercation is because of, you know what I mean, just being. So I think that you should give yourself, because that's, girl, it takes a lot for you to be able to say, I don't hate you right now, but I would need a minute to just breathe and process what has happened. And I love that you said even in relationships, right? So it's like, for me, I'm one of those people who likes to talk about it right now. Like, why you gotta wait? What you gotta process? It just happened. Why do you need time? Like in my head, I've always been like, why do you gotta process it? Let's talk about right now. And they say, God will send you the answer to your prayers. And my husband, Francois, is completely opposite.
He always wants to process.
He will listen.
It might be a Pisces thing. Because he's a Pisces.
He will listen to all the things. Let me tell you, I can go on for like 20 hours. Blah, 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 blah. And then he'll tell me, babe, let me get back to you. He's like, I'm not sure what my response to. He's like, I'm not sure what my response should be.
That is crazy.
Let me process it for a minute, and then let's talk about it later. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how dare you? How dare you process it for a minute? Yeah. And I had to like learn, right? Like it's like sometimes some people just need a minute to process stuff. So which brings me back to the conversation. The reason why I say this is because for someone like me, right? It's like I can get like easily start going down the rabbit hole of getting too involved of like, oh this or that. I have to. And then I realize sometimes you just gotta take a step back.
Yep.
Like for example, right now for me, a lot of this is overstimulating, and I can feel my nervous system just like
starting to react to it.
And I'm like, what good am I to anyone, especially because not just the world at large, but I need to be able to be of service, for lack of a better word, to the people around me.
Oh yeah, 100%, because it spreads out. It has a ripple effect.
So even the people around me, I need to be able to have the energy, sustain the energy to be able to be there for them. So I'm like, if I'm doing all of this and I'm doing too much and I'm, expending all this energy, then I have nothing left for me. That's one. And then I have nothing left for even my loved ones to enjoy the me that they love so much, right? So these days I just like tell myself, when I feel myself getting overstimulated, and that's one thing that I have, self-discipline. Well, you know that I'm very self-discipline and self-motivation. So it's like if I feel a certain way, I'm off. Like I've been off social media for a minute because like I just need my peace to be protected. And I went off.
It's so important. To your point about knowing yourself. And I haven't always been that way. Because of how emotional I am, I have been in situations where my response hasn't always been helpful. Because I'm trying to deal with situations in the moment as I'm emotional, right? And so part of my growth has been understanding that it's better for me to calm down before I talk to people. Because I've hurt myself, I've hurt the people I love, because I try to react from that space of emotion. I do it with vulnerability. So when my niece called me, I'm talking about my niece, I was crying on the phone. So it's not like, I don't want to talk to you, I'm giving you the cold shoulder. It's like, here are my emotions, they're in your hands, but I don't want to talk right now because I am not in a mental space to talk. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're withholding your emotions from them. It's like, this is what I'm feeling right now. Just being very honest about the way you're feeling, which is actually what we're trying to achieve on this podcast. It's just being very honest about the way we're both feeling about what's going on right now. And for whoever is wondering or whoever might be in a similar situation as us, scared, nervous, anxious about what's going on, prioritizing your peace. I feel like the world would be a much better place when people come to understand that when you get better, everything gets better. When you are better, everything around you is better. Oh, and that there's no use, because I feel like sometimes people like, what's the term? Trauma porn or something. There's a term for it, right? I feel like people sometimes like purposely agitate themselves because they feel like that's how they're being of service, is when they're agitated.
But when you've lived on edge for a very long time and your nervous system is constantly on edge, I think that's your go-to. I don't think you know
that's
anything.
Your default.
Yeah, I don't think you know anything else.
Anything different.
That's just where you're at.
Right, but we're here to tell you that there is a different way to be.
Let me tell you what's very interesting. My sister and I are two completely different people. 100%.
My sister and I too.
So my sister has this way about the world and the way that she does things, right? So it's like, and I've always admired her from when we're young. It's a thing I always speak about. Like my sister just, I don't know how to explain it. Like my sister was not one you could argue with, right? Since she was like young. So it's like, I'll go to her and I'll be like, oh, that building is red. And then she'll be like, no, it's green. And I'll be like, no, it's red. And then she'll be like, okay, it's red. And then I'm like, but I thought you said it was green. And then she's like, yeah. And then I'm like, but then I said it was red. And then now you're agreeing with me that it's red. So why are you agreeing with me? She's like, because I just don't want to argue. And then I'm like, yeah, but you should stand on what you believe in. And then she's like, but isn't this argument about you being right, that it is red? And then I'm like, yeah, but...
And she's younger than you.
Yep. And I'm like, yeah, but... Woo! So we'll go, and then she's like, so it's red. And then I'm like, trying to stay there, and then she just walks away. Because in her mind, she's like, the reason why you're trying to argue with me is so that you're right. So you're right. And she does this with everybody. It's like, you want to argue with her about something, she'll be like, oh, okay, you're correct. I don't have that. Like, I need to prove my point. I need to bring the facts. I need receipts. I need to bring timelines. I need to bring things
Yeah. It reminds me of something Keanu Reeves said. He said he's at the point in his life where if you tell him, I may get the figures wrong, but he said if you tell him 2 + 2 is equal to 1, he'll be like, okay, just to protect his peace. So that's a level of enlightenment. Some people don't even reach that in their entire lifetime.
But here's the thing. Why I say that story is because when I got older, I said to myself, I'm like, I want to be like my sister. I was talking to my friends about it, talking to people about it, and everybody, people introduced therapy, introduced this. I didn't take all of those things until much later. I want to say, honestly, towards maybe the end, honestly, my late 20s is when I started to like really take it serious. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to try therapy and see if it works. And now, I'm not her level, but most people now it's just like, if you're saying the thing, I'm just like, okay.
My biggest takeaway from that is that in as much as she seems blasé to people, she seems like, she's still a rock star, right? Because she planned your wedding. She's the money person. She can help you scale your business. So a lot of people feel like intensity is what gets you to where you want to be, like excessive intensity. Because like moderate intensity is fine, but excessive intensity is what gets you to where you want to be. But sometimes that's just trauma. One of the things I learned in therapy was that a lot of my ambition came from trauma.
No, of course. That's one
of the things I learned.
To a certain extent, I can see
to a certain extent, was a lot of my ambition, not all of it, because I'm still ambitious, even having healed from a lot of those traumas.
But also, your first daughter in an African home.
Right. But I had to come to terms with the fact that a lot of that sense of ambition and drive came from trauma. It was from trauma, Crazy. And so so my journey has been similar to yours, where the thing with me though is I come from a family of ITKs. For those who don't know what that is, that's I too know. There's this thing we call I too know in Nigeria, where everyone wants to act like, or everyone wants to put up a sense of, and they're smart, they're brilliant. My sister is, I tell them all the time how proud.
Humility is not.
But they don't know exactly. They don't know humility. But I tell them all the time how proud I am. They've earned it. They're badass. They work with my younger brother works with a pharmaceutical company. My younger sister too, senior scientists. They crushed it. And we were all smart at school too. So we did know, right? But I felt like when I started healing, I felt like there was a huge part of it that was more of an act than authentic. Right? Where especially for me, and I'm not talking about them, but for me, I felt like when I came, because I don't know what their healing journeys are, and that's the interesting thing about healing is that it's interesting about trauma and interesting about healing. The interesting about trauma is that two people can go through the exact same thing and have two different takeaways from that situation.
Absolutely.
And the interesting about healing too is that two people can have come from the exact same place, but have two different paths to healing. So on my path to healing was realizing that there was a lot of that wasn't me. It was just because of the environment in which I grew up. So now I'm more like your sister, where if you want to argue with me, I'm fine with just letting you. It's like you believe what you want to believe, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll believe what I want to believe. It's all good,
Honestly,
You know what I mean?
And you know what I mean? Like, two truths can exist. So
Exactly.
that's your truth. Hey, that's what's getting you through the day,
Yep.
honey. It's one thing to have a conversation with someone where they're even listening or they're hearing you and understanding you, to like having a conversation with someone where you know they're waiting to respond. So it's like when and you can tell
It's like
the
they're not
difference.
hearing you. Yep.
Yes, you can tell the difference because you're like saying something and they're just waiting
Yeah.
for where they're going to give you the punchlines to what is it you're saying.
Yeah.
As opposed to like listening to you and I like the point that you made about the I too know.
Yep.
See, let me tell you something. My family members had that too.
Oh wow! It might be
Some
a
of
Nigerian
them,
thing
not
too.
all of them, but some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there is no, and I know some people too who have this thing of like, I know it all. One of the things that I've learned over the years is, for me, even when someone is saying something that I already know, like I know in my heart of heart, like I know exactly what it is, I sit there and I listen. And I sit there patiently and I listen to the entire thing. Why? Because I'm telling you, sometimes I learn nothing new. But sometimes I learn something completely new that I did not even think. Like, so you can see when a person is talking and you see my brain go, because that's something that I didn't even know at all about that particular information, right? But not just that, I also learn perspective.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you what's interesting is the fact that, so when this whole voting thing happened, right? As you already know, I proudly voted for Kamala Harris, and I stand on that mountain and that hill, and I stand 10 toes and 10 fingers there.
Yep.
And then I had a friend who voted for Trump. And so I said to myself, I can sit here and hate that person, right? Or I can sit here and listen to what the person has to say because they wanted me to listen to their perspective as to why they voted for him. It allowed me room to hear. It allowed me room to learn. Because I had a different ideology of like Trump supporters. I thought, oh, just they don't know what they're doing. But I needed to understand
from someone who actually knows what they're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. So I needed to understand it. But not just that, I needed to understand, like, then why? With all this information, because I know you're super smart. I know you're absolutely 100% one of the most educated people that I know.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be friends, probably, right?
You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Because when they told me they voted for Trump, it threw me off. Like, when I tell you it threw me off, like, it threw me off, and my reactive mind wanted to go, oh, fuck you! Burn it to the ground!
Yeah.
And I was like, Julie, just listen.
Well, I'm curious to know what their reason was.
Yes. And I listened to everything.
Yeah.
And then in that conversation, I just realized that it would never be okay for me. Like, nothing that was said in that conversation made me think that I would
convinced you of why it was okay.
You can never convince me with that information. So that's what I learned. But here's what I learned also. I learned that there's people who benefit the most from Trump being in office. Because of money. Money is the biggest driving factor. If you're ever wondering, it is the biggest driver. 2, ideologies. That you thought you're on the same, because sometimes you think you're on the same page with someone, but you're not. Because they have different ideologies from what is that you're thinking, right? And it's not because you didn't know, but it's because it's never come up. Like, it's almost like you spend time so much with someone and you see the way that they live life, and there's nothing about it that says, you know? And then because at the end of the conversation, the person told me, just give him a chance. And I said, I have no choice.
It's like we did before, though.
No, but but also I said I have no choice now.
Yeah, because that's honestly, like, I don't know who the person is, but that's stupid to me because we did before and we saw exactly what he did.
But that's not even it. For me, I was just like, I have no choice.
Right? Yeah, at this point, right?
I have no choice. I'm going to have to sit with it, you know, and all of that. But then in that conversation, I just sat with it and I kept on thinking to myself, like, some of us think too much about humanity. That's what I learned in that conversation. We think too much about humanity. What's happening to my next door neighbor? If I eat, will my next door neighbor eat? Other people think about
themselves.
If I'm eating, I don't give a fuck.
Wow,
who's not
that's
eating,
crazy.
or who's eating.
It's funny because what you're saying is so obvious, but the way you say it is crazy. You know what I mean? It's
because like what thinking too much about like humanity. Because I was thinking about it, and I was like thinking about some things, and I'm like, these things don't affect me. Like, you know what I mean? I'm thinking about something, I'm like, it does not affect me. It does not affect me. It does not affect me. But then I'm like, but when I think of the people that it affects, it bothers me.
Right. That's insane. Like, it's insane because it's so obvious. Yeah, obviously there are people who don't. But the way you just like explained it, it's just like felt like a meteor dropped in my brain.
And then I just just get too much about too much about the planets. We care. Because that's the truth. We care too much about the planets. We care too much about. We care too much about
the homeless.
We care. You know what I mean? We care about immigration so much. We care about immigrants being in this country. We care about way. Which is not a bad thing, and I would never ever not want
regret
to care.
that. Yeah, I would never care.
I really just I love to know that my neighbor is eating too.
Yes,
I've always been that person where even with my friends, like if I'm doing something, I'm thinking of how can I bring my friends on board. If I'm doing a business, I'm starting something, I'm like thinking to my friend, how can I bring, because I always reach out to my friends, do you want to collaborate with me on this? Do you want to collaborate with me on this? Do you want because that's how my mind thinks. Like if I'm eating, everybody on the table should be eating.
And I strongly believe we can all win.
But that's the thing.
For most people, if you're winning, it means they're losing.
Yes, but not just that. Also, they're
crazy.
not even thinking. No, they're not thinking if you're losing.
They're not even thinking. That's true. They're not even considering you in the picture.
Yes, my calculation is for my household. Like the number of my house. Like, are we eating in this house? Okay. And my neighbor comes and knock on the door, and he's like, "Oh, I'm hungry." I'm gonna look and be like, "I have 20 cans of soup." That I do not even think I'm gonna eat. I'm not even gonna eat it. And then I turn to my neighbor and say, "Oh, we are going through the same thing." And then tomorrow, when I'm cleaning my pantry, put it all in the trash, and throw it in the trash.
That's crazy.
Why? Because I never even considered you when I bought it. I never considered you when you knocked on my door to ask me for it. And when it was time to throw it out because it had expired from being on the shelf for too long, I never considered you either.
That's crazy. But it's true.
I just said, so that's one of the things where, like, for me, and most people always say, and again, Adine makes fun of me about this. Adine's like, Julie, you like to see everybody's point of view. I said, because people really do have perspective. Like, I'm like, if you sit with people, I said, here's the thing. I said, you can hate them all you want. But sometimes when you sit with people, it makes you realize, like, okay, the world is more evil than I thought. Because sometimes you're like, you're walking around, you're thinking, and then you realize
we're thinking we're all right.
And then you realize, like,
I think
you're like, you're like, oopsie, I was right around. Because y'all gonna kill me.
It shocks you, right? I feel like personally, I've reframed that. I've come to the point where it's not like you're evil. It's just like you're where you are. You know what I mean? Like it's a slight like reframe of, it's not this is who you are. It's just this is where you are, right? Because we're always evolving. And I say this as someone who grew up in Nigeria with certain ideologies, with certain, knowledge of certain things, and then who evolved, moved to the UK, moved to the US, and then learned new things and have evolved in my ideologies, in my thinking, right? So I think that's what I see when I see people where it's like, okay, you're not who you are, you're where you are. That said, where you are is not where I want to be. And so... And that's even if I see your perspective, that's okay too. Even if I see your perspective, I also have the liberty to separate myself from that space where you are and from that perspective. Right.
It teaches you how to move. It teaches you how to operate.
Exactly.
It teaches you how to move. It teaches you how to operate. It teaches you how to think. Right?
Exactly.
Because now it's like, I never would have known what your mind was thinking. If you never said it to me. Now I know. So now I know how to operate, because now I know, like, tomorrow you ain't gonna play me.
Because I know now. I see things for what they actually are. And I think that's a good place to talk about our ability to focus on the things we can control. right? Because I feel like a lot of times why people get stressed out, and by people I mean me, because I still get stressed out, but a lot of times why people get stressed out is we think about lofty things and then we start to feel powerless in our spaces where we are. So we think about, like you said, global warming, this and that. Again, this is as someone who is concerned about those things, who is concerned about how much we are pillaging the earth, how much of the earth we're using without regard to replenishment and all that. Who I am genuinely concerned. I have questions about those things, but there's a tendency to immerse yourself too much in that kind of thinking to the point where you start to feel powerless.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like that's the rhetoric that's out there too, where a lot of people, it's just complaints, and no one is preferring any solution. Right? And so when I start to feel powerless, I come back into myself and ask myself, what can you control in this moment? So following the global warming example, what can I control? Recycle. That's the part that I can control. Is I can at least attempt to recycle the things that I use. I can at least attempt to use less. So instead of, like, I know Jubilee has metal straws, instead of using plastic straws, that's what I can control. So I feel like, again,
you already know me. I know this planet. I
know you. I know you. And so coming back to our concept of protecting our peace, you know, like, Jubilee, I want to hear your thoughts on how, like, what is the importance of focusing on what you can control? Because that's what I'm doing. It's like,
your mental health.
I do, right? Yes, talk about
your mental health. Like, honestly, I'm sorry to cut you, but you, like, your mental health.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, your mental health, like, literally, that's it. Like, nothing else should even bother you more than your mental health. Like, honestly,
right?
Your mental health. Are you okay? Check it with yourself. I check it with myself because I have therapy every week. So it forces me to have moments where I'm like, or when I'm doing my journaling, especially when I'm journaling, it helps me check in with myself. Because the moment my writing in my journal is all about and this, everything's about things that I can no longer control, then I know something is wrong. Right? The moment I'm no longer writing, I'm grateful for. I'm not writing, oh, the world is turning upside down. Then I know immediately, like, and I've even said this to my therapist. So I was like, the moment I see myself not writing, if I can't write more than 3 things that I'm grateful for, because I'm already feeling like,
that's already a sign,
on edge. That's a sign for me to, like, check in with myself, like, check in with my, you know. And then the best part is also, Francois and I work with each other on, like, one, keeping each other accountable, but also reminding each other, like, hey, sir, are you going through something? Because a little, you're a little off. You've been a little off.
Your energy,
the energy
is a little murky.
Is giving, you know. Or, like, for example, when he comes back from work and we're talking about something, and I'm like, the internet, he'll be like, let's relax. He's like, let's relax. Let's leave the people on the internet. You know, let's. And the same thing for him.
Give me your phone.
He's Pass like, let's breathe. There's no need for. He's like, there's no need for all this. You know, literally today, because they have a game. So he went and then he texted me and he was like, after your podcast recording, he's like, put your feet up and relax. He's like, the world is not gonna burn down. Real talk. But those are the ways for me now. I love the fact that I have a partner that can keep me accountable, because that's one thing. Because sometimes I can get too deep into it. And I need somebody to remind me, to, like,
reel you back in, like the fish.
You know what I mean? Like, breathe, ma'am, breathe. You're going too deep into the dark, deep ocean. Breathe. And then for myself too, especially my journaling, man, it just kind of makes me go, like, something. The journaling
though, that part, because you said that, and I think you just woke something up in me, because I journal too. But what I do is I do predictive journaling and affirmative journaling, where I just, like, I journal to affirm, right? And over the past, like, couple of weeks, I haven't been doing it as often, and I haven't been. So I have this big journal. It's like A4 size, and usually I fill up a page with my affirmations. Every single day I journal like a page. And I haven't been doing up to half. I haven't been doing up to half though over the past few weeks. So that just woke something up in me. Like, I have to check in with myself. So that's to you guys out there. Like, you know, Jubilee is, you know, she has someone, her husband, who they're on the same page, and he's able to help keep her accountable. But, you know, like, even if you're single, there are ways that you can always check in with yourself. One thing I don't joke around with anymore though is my meditation. So it doesn't matter if I journal I always meditate for at least 15 minutes every day. And it shows. It shows. It shows. It always shows when I meditate versus when I don't, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So I feel full about this conversation. The only other thing I wanted to say to people is, in as much as, we see presidential figures as this lofty, big figures, it is important to also know that they don't have as much power over you as you think they do. They don't have as much power over you, because the power they have over you is the power you give them. Like, even think about it in the practical sense, about you are the ones who elect these people.
Yep.
The people put these people in their positions.
Well,
you
not
choose
we.
Them. Well, not we. But you get my point. You get.
We're not in the we.
We're not in the we. We're not there. We're not among. But it is the power of the people that puts some of these people in these positions. They can impact policy, they can do all that. But I've also come to a point in my life where I have this confidence that things are always working out for me. Like, even when things seem like they're not working out, like when we see things like they're not working out, it's short-sightedness, right? And that's one of the limitations of who we are as people, of our minds, is that we can't see the future necessarily. So, but no matter what happens, no matter like the shifts that are going on, I just have this knowing, this conviction at the back of my head that everything is working out for me. And I hope that most people take on that, again, just for the protection of your peace and the protection of your mental health for the next couple of years. Just take on that knowledge that things are always working out for you, no matter how things may seem in the moments, that they are working out for you. So yeah, those are my final words. What are your words, Jubilee?
Honestly, my biggest thing is, like, I'm very big on like taking care of yourself, like your mental health. You're the only one who has control over that. Like, you are the only person who can control what comes in and what you give out, and that's just as important. Just like take care of yourself, man. There's a lot of information coming, and sometimes, honestly, if you really want to even know about the information, you can say to yourself, like, if you really want to know about the information, you can just literally say to yourself, you know what, 1 hour every day I'm going to read about the news.
Yep.
In a day. So, in that day, you read whatever you need to read. Time yourself. Turn on your timer. Put an hour. Read whatever you need to do. After that hour, be out.
Yeah.
And be gone with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, if you really want to, because some people really just want to know what's happening around them.
Yeah.
You can do that. And then, or dedicate that time to, like, okay, how can I post resources for people to learn about this? How can I post this? How can I, like, just do that. But at the end of the day, just take care of yourself. God damn it. Take care of yourself. Like, even down to his supporters. Like, take a break. Take a break from the
It's not that serious.
Take a break from trolling.
It's not that serious.
Allow the other people who did not vote for him get some peace. God damn it. Take a break. Take a break.
Take a break.
Like, my biggest thing is that take a break. Like, just take a break.
Yeah,
go outside. It's cold. If you're outside and there's, you're on the East Coast, go and put your leg in snow. If you're outside on the West Coast,
that's why I'm dressed as a bear today, because it's cold. It's cold out
here. Go outside, touch grass a little bit. Like,
touch grass. I like that.
Like, like, go outside and touch. Like, just step into reality a little bit. Get some fresh air. Please, let's all rest. Fighting every day. Let's all rest.
Honestly, I'm not even fighting anyone. It's so funny, but like, I'm not even. But I know my brother though.
You don't need to fight.
My brother likes trolling online. My brother is like, he trolls online. I'm like, I have to. I'm like, how do you do this? I'm like, how are you arguing with his supporters? Like, they don't even, like, these people don't even have brain cells. Like, how are you arguing with them? But anyways,
just walk away from the conversation.
Just walk. It's not worth the energy, in my opinion. But yeah, like, we started this by saying know thyself. So know thyself and know what your limits are and take care of yourself. So
I agree. 100%.
Yep. This has been another amazing episode of the Two Naija Girls podcast. I'm one Naija girl, Cynthia, and we have our other Naija girl,
Jubilee. Yeah. Ooh.
We will see you all on the next episode. We remain excited about the year, regardless, and we'll see you all on the next episode.
I'm ready. What are you talking about? I'm very excited. I'm ready. All right, bye.